friend or colleague or person to a minimum or none at all, that would be great so I can get this message out. I do talk loud, Ted does as well, so does Luke, so you'll hear us, but especially in a tighter room like this, if you can keep your conversation to your friend to after we're done, that would be great, okay? So I'm gonna start off with one of my show hosts. What you were watching before was a show called The Papa Report. I'm going to introduce myself. I think if you were watching the last show, my name is John Papa. I was on the invitation. I'm a licensed fiduciary. My company is DPS Advisors. I started this practice with my father 40 years ago. Now, I know I don't look like I'm 61 years old. I know I'm at 25. You guys are saying, how is this guy in this business 40 years? But that's reality. I've been doing this for a really long time. It's a family-run business. The two people outside, Ted Fiore, that's my brother-in-law. Luke is my son. My daughter Alyssa is in our office in Roseland right now manning the phones. And my wife works in our company as well. So we are truly a family-run business. When I started this with my dad, he was a hairdresser most of his life, and he couldn't do that anymore, and he started selling life insurance. I was in college at the time in the mid-'80s. Thought I was going to be an NFL football player, but when you're 5'10", 190 pounds, and can't run or can't do anything, that dream went out quick. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I started selling life insurance. Hated doing that. So I'd like to start doing investments. So my father and I started this practice 40 years ago, and we took people to retirement, and now we focus mainly on retirement strategies. You're going to hear today stuff on Social Security. You're going to hear stuff on taxes on qualified plans. You're going to hear stuff on how to invest in the markets when you're older and you're not building and accumulating your assets, but now you're spending and distributing your assets. We're going to talk about how to do that, okay? I'm going to play a quick video from our television show host, Kristen Oakley, and then we'll get this program going. Because we are a packed house, Tuesday, we basically was question and answer. Ask any questions you want. Today, we're not going to be able to do that. We're going to be here during lunch, so jot your questions down. We gave you notepads and pens. Jot questions down. We'll answer. Maybe we're going to take one or two throughout, but we'll be here to answer any question you have, and we'll stay till 4 o'clock if we have to, if you want more questions. So jot them down, and we'll go over them when we're during lunch, okay? Quick intro video from Kristen Oakley, who is my normal television show host, but when we went out to record our last show, she got sick and had to fly home, and Brad filled in for us, so you watch that show with Brad. But Kristen's our normal show, our television show host. So we're going to be actually making more space.
Hello everyone, I'm Kristen Oakley, co-host of the Papa Report TV show, and on behalf of the entire DPS Advisors team, I'd like to welcome you to this event. We're so glad that you're here. We recognize that there's a lot of other places you could be right now and a lot of other things that you could be doing, but you chose to come here and invest in your financial future, and we really admire you for that. This event is just one of many ways that the DPS Advisors team lives out its motto of educating and empowering people to make better decisions with their hard-earned money. You choosing to be here today is part of that mission, and it's our sincere hope that you will leave here feeling educated and empowered to make better decisions with your hard-earned money. I have the pleasure of introducing you to John Papa. Now, you can read all about his professional bio on his website or on the materials that are going to be given to you here at this event. So, what I want to do is share with you some things about John that you won't find anywhere else. I first met John in early 2023 when I was asked to become his new television show host. In an industry that can often be filled with a lot of arrogance and large egos, I was immediately struck by John's humility and his sincere desire to connect with and positively impact the lives of our television show viewers. But perhaps what impressed me even more was John's desire to acknowledge and appreciate every single person behind the scenes who is a part of his show. Every time we work together, John takes the time to write a handwritten note and includes a generous monetary gift to every single person behind the scenes, from the director to the cameraman to the makeup artist and to me. Here's my latest one. It says, "Kristen, thank you for everything that you do for me to make my show great. I really appreciate all you do for me. John." He recognizes that it takes an entire team of people to be able to do what he does, and he always goes the extra mile to show his gratitude. After John and I had been working together for about a year, we both attended an industry dinner that was filled with financial advisors from across the country. As we sat next to each other enjoying our meal in a very noisy room, I started asking John some hypothetical questions about my own financial situation. Now, what John didn't know, and I didn't tell him, is that my husband and I were currently looking for a new financial advisor to manage our own money. He answered all my questions and didn't hesitate to offer the opportunity for me to receive a complimentary written financial plan, just like he provides to every single person who wants to make an appointment with him. When I got back to my hotel room that night, I called my husband and I said, "I know we found our guy." We were blown away by the level of detail that John was able to provide for us, especially because I'd already been working in this industry as a financial educator for over a decade. Shortly after that, we became clients of DPS Advisors, and it is by far one of the best decisions that we have ever made. So much so that we've now gone on to refer 5 other friends and family members who've now entrusted John and the team to take care of their financial futures as well. In addition to his knowledge and expertise, one of the things we really appreciate about John is his responsiveness. A few months after we had become clients, I was making coffee in my company's break room, and word was getting around the office that the stock market was going crazy. As I listened to all the chatter and heard all the people freaking out around me, I glanced down at my phone and boom, there was an email from John telling me exactly what was going on, what we needed to know about it, and most of all, providing the reassurance that because of the plan he had built for us, we were going to be fine. Anytime we have a question, concern, or decision that involves a dollar sign, we know we can count on John and the team of DPS Advisors to be there for us in a timely manner. I could go on and on about John, but I think the best thing I can do for you is allow you to experience John and the team of DPS Advisors for yourself.
So, sorry about the little, we're full here. You guys, I'm gonna talk a lot. You might not be able to see the screen, but you'll hear exactly what we're talking about, and we'll be able to get all the information to you as possible. This is never, I've been doing this for a really long time. Like I said, I've been here doing it like 40 years. We've never really had a full house, where we had to bring tables in while we're working. So, sorry about the little technical difficulties. So we're gonna get on with the program. This screen here is the compliance screen, okay? You can't read it, it's too small. But what I'm gonna tell you is, it has to be up there for like a minute, okay? That's what makes it legal. What I'm gonna tell you here is, and what it says here is, anything you hear about today, from me, Ted, or Luke, about a plan or a strategy or anything, is in general. I am not talking to anybody here specifically, not you, not you. Do not go home and implement something you heard me say because you don't want to talk to me at first, you just want to do it yourself. So I'm telling you, for compliance reason, I'm being recorded, I'm telling you now, do not go home and implement anything I talked about. We're gonna offer everybody in this room an opportunity to come into our Roseland office. No obligation, you're not gonna be sold anything, and talk about, why you came here, okay? The food's good, but it's not that good, okay? Hopefully you're here for the education. My dad and I, like I said, started this practice 40 years ago. And you can tell, well, I'm not a man of great words. That note, when Kristen reads that note, it screeches my head because it sounds so stupid, right? But what it is, and the reason why I show it is not because I give monetary gifts to everybody who works on our show. It's because Kristen Oakley is not just my show host. She's 100 advisors use her as her host from across the country. She's constantly recording TV shows for advisors all over the place. And the fact that she chose me and DPS Advisors to manage her own money when she could be with people who have managed way more money than we do, I think is a pretty cool statement. And she insisted on creating this intro video for me. So I'm proud of the fact that she can deal with anybody, and she chose us because we are a family-run business. If you become part of our clientele, you become a family. You get my cell number. I don't care if you call me 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night. If something financial is going on, you have access to us. And we think that separates us from everybody else, okay? So, why'd you accept the invitation? I gave you my background, you need to see another video. So, we're licensed fiduciaries. Does anybody know what the word fiduciary means? It's thrown around in the financial world like it's like M&Ms. Like a fiduciary is held to a different standard when they meet with clients, okay? If you get one thing out of this thing, it's that you should be working with a fiduciary. I'll give you an analogy using Home Depot, okay? So let's say you're working with somebody at one of the big box firms. I'm being recorded, so I can't mention their names, but you have the statements from all the big investment companies. And you ask that person, you need to hang a picture in your house, and you need a hammer. And that broker sells you a 20-pound hammer. That's a suitable recommendation. You asked for a hammer, they sold you a hammer. If you're buying that hammer from a fiduciary, and let's say you get hurt, swinging that 20-pound hammer and file a complaint with the SEC, I'm probably getting fined for that. Maybe not this barred because it's not that egregious of a violation, but I didn't have a standard of care that's equal to the fiduciary level. Being Home Depot, if you come into me and say, I need a hammer, I'm walking you down to aisle 11, and we're looking at every hammer that's there, from a 1-pound hammer to sledgehammers, and I'm asking you health questions. How are you feeling? Do you have any heart issues? Any orthopedic issues I need to know about? Shoulder, ankle, wrist, elbow, any health information that I need so I can make sure I find the right tool for the job for you. That's the fiduciary standard of care. And if you get one thing out of this, it's you need to go home and find out if your current advisor or whoever you're working with is a fiduciary. And it's a really simple process. You call that person up and you say, hey, I listened to some guy in Whippany telling me about fiduciaries. Are you a fiduciary? And if they say yes, great. Follow up with one more question. Which kind? Because there's only two. Registered investment advisor or certified financial planner. Those are the only two designations that are licensed with the SEC that can say they're fiduciaries. So if your second question does not get an answer of one of those two, they are not telling you the truth. Okay? So if you get one thing out of today, make sure you're working with a fiduciary, because they have to have your interest over their own at all times. They have to disclose compensation. I can't tell you how many times people come into my office and they're working with an advisor at one of the big box firms, and I ask them how much you're paying. I have no idea. They have no idea how much they're paying the advisor. We disclose it. We're fully transparent. We have to be. Our license dictates it. And if we don't disclose compensation, you file a claim with the SEC, I'm getting fined. Work with a fiduciary. That's number one. Number two, like I said, I've been doing this a really long time. This isn't my first rodeo, just like it's not yours, okay? Everybody here a Fox Business? Every Sunday afternoon, there's a show called The Wealth Council. It's on at 2 o'clock. I've been on that show about 5 episodes. I was just recently asked about a month ago to do more shows for them. I'm leaving Sunday to go to Arizona. They record the shows in Arizona. I'm leaving Sunday to record 10 or 12 more shows for Fox Business on the Wealth Council. They bring advisors from across the country to talk about the stuff we're going to talk about today. So I've been on it. Now, we don't get political here. That's a conservative station. Anybody here CNBC? Very liberal station, okay? They have a show called The Worldwide Exchange, broadcast in 90 countries. I was on that show talking to a host in London about financial stuff for retirees, because it's all over the world. So CNBC invited me on, and I talked about it for an hour from 4 o'clock in the morning till 5 in the morning out in the Englewood Cliff Studios. So I've been on liberal stations, conservative stations. We don't get political DPS advisors. I don't care what your political affiliations are. Doesn't matter to me, okay? WPIX, New York, Channel 11. My show, The Papa Report, that you were just watching, every other Sunday night at 6:30, it's on that station. Every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on News 12 New Jersey, The Papa Report. So I have TV shows that I do. I've written articles for Benzinga and Market Watch. Every Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock, I also do a radio show on WOR 710. I'm not too smart with words. It's called the Papa Report. 1 hour every Sunday, 2 o'clock. You plop on 7:10. You'll hear me and Morgan Patrick talking about the stuff we're going to talk about today. So I have extensive background and expertise in this field because, like I told you, I worked with my dad. We were going into small businesses. I hated selling life insurance. He was really good at it. So we went into small businesses. Not the Nabiscos, not the Novartises, because they all had the plans already, but small businesses, 20 body shops, pizzerias, little garbage companies. They didn't have retirement plans for their employees. So we found a niche market and went into every one of those, all here in North Jersey. I would do the investments in the 401ks for the employees. He would do the insurance on the executives. And we ran that practice for 20 years, from 86 to the early 2000s. And then what happened? Our clients started getting older and retiring. And they're calling us, asking for help. What do I do now? How do I get my money out of the 401k? Where do I get my income from? And that's when we shifted our practice in the early 2000s to dealing with people who are 50 years old and above. Most of my clients are 50 years old and above. We do work, now that I have my son and my daughter working with us, I work with the children and grandchildren of our clients. We are actively pursuing, we meaning my firm, but really Luke and Alyssa are handling the younger people because they don't want to talk to me. They think of me as their parent. So we are getting younger clients that they're working with. I work with you, okay? I wrote a book called Avoiding the Retirement Traps. I wrote it 15 years ago. Everything in that book applies to today. I just read through it a little bit the other day. We're writing another book called The Intelligent Investor because I want the young kids to not make the mistakes that we made. Because I came into your offices and your rooms and told you to put your money into a 401k, guess what? That was bad advice. Because when you hear the tax that you're gonna pay on these 401ks and IRAs and 403bs, it's bad. And we'll get into that in a little bit, okay? So I'm gonna tell the young kids, you do everything in Roth. Forget about regular 401ks. Everything's gotta be in Roth. You want it tax-free. And we'll tell you why in a little bit. So, the first part of our presentation is going to be about Social Security, which is a pretty big topic. Everyone's hearing about how it's going bankrupt and things like that. Ted's going to come up, talk a few minutes about that, maybe take a question or two, and then we'll move on to these qualified plans and taxes, and then market volatility. Quick question before everybody, we're good? We might run, because of this issue with table settings, maybe run a few minutes early. I'll ask you if we're at that time, if it's okay if we do that. If not, then we'll just cut the presentation down. You guys can have lunch. But if you are interested in continuing, like Tuesday, we went over by 10 or 15 minutes. So
A lot of good questions.
I'll ask you guys if it's okay. So we'll get going and we'll go from there.
All right, thank you, John. Welcome, everyone. As John said, my name is Ted Fiore. I have been with Diversified Planning Strategies for 2 years now. John is married to one of my 3 sisters. Luke outside is my nephew. I've been in the financial services industry for over 35 years. But as the new guy to the company, they asked me to talk about Social Security. I know it's a very important topic, but my issue with Social Security is there are over 2,700 rules that govern Social Security, and the Social Security Administration itself conducted a study in 2018, and they determined there are over 9,000 different ways that a married couple can file for Social Security. So John asks me to talk about 9,000 ways to file and 2,700 rules in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, it's five minutes today. We are way,
running late. So
our schedule's messed up.
Wish me luck.
5 minutes, I'm cutting you right off.
So with those big numbers that I just said, there are really 2 questions that people have when they come into our office, right? The first question is, will Social Security be there for me when I need it? And the answer to that question is yes, but. The second question is, when is the best time for me to file or claim Social Security? The answer to that question is, it depends. So you're going to get a yes, but, and an it depends from me. A lot of really concrete information there. For the first question, we're going to give you a little bit of a history lesson. Will Social Security be there for me? All right, so Social Security was enacted 91 years ago. 1935, FDR created the Social Security Administration, okay? At that time, they chose the age of 65 as your full retirement age. Okay, can anyone tell me in 1935 what the average life expectancy was for someone who was born in 1935? Anybody want to take a guess? 59 and a half. So just do the quick math on that. Full retirement age was 65. Average life expectancy was only 59 and a half. What that story is, they weren't expecting people to live very long and or collect Social Security for a very long period of time, okay? Here we are 90 years later. All they've done is increase the full retirement age from either 65 to either 66 or 67, depending on what year you were born. Can anyone tell me, however, what the average life expectancy for anyone born in 2026 is now?
87.
So it's the late 70s. For women, it's about 79. For men, it's about 74. All right, so we all know that women live longer than men. We're not going to debate that in this room today as to why that may be. I'm sure everybody has their own thoughts. But so just think about that, right? All they've done is raise the full retirement age 1 or 2 years, but people are living so much longer, right? Have you heard the saying that Social Security is going bankrupt? Right, everyone's heard that. What that means is by 2032, 2033, the Social Security trust fund that everyone has been paying into, when you look at your pay stub, right, if you've ever seen Social Security tax, or more likely FICA, everyone always wonders, who's the FICA guy that I'm giving 6.25% of my paycheck? Well, FICA stands for the Federal Insurance Contributions Act, and that's the money that goes directly into Social Security. Last year, for the first time in 2024, actually, 77 million people took money out of Social Security. Between the baby boomers, Generation X, Generation Y, which are the millennials, people retiring now over the next 6 to 8 years, there are more people taking money out than are putting money into the system. All right, so when they say it's going bankrupt, what's really happening is that big trust fund is really getting emptied out because more people are taking money out. As long as Americans continue to work and pay into it, though, there's going to be new, fresh money coming into it. What that could mean for everyone here is by 2032, 2033, if Congress doesn't do anything, if they don't act, the trust fund will be bankrupt. There will be no money into it. New money will be coming in. For the amount that you're either collecting or that you expect to collect, you would get about 80% of what you thought you were going to get or what you're currently getting. So if you think about it, 6, 7 years down the road, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on inflation because John's going to talk more about it. But if Social Security 80% of what you're already getting or what you expect to get, and the price of everything while you're in retirement continues to go up, that is something that you need to plan for. You need to talk to your financial advisor about that, okay? What Congress can do, there are a few things that they can do that we think we're going to do. So if you look up here, you see Social Security wage tax, right? 2024 it was 168,000 and some change. 2025 it was 176,000. What that means is if last year you had adjusted gross income of $200,000 or $500,000 or $1 million, for Social Security purposes, they will only tax you up to $176,000. So that's 6.25% that I mentioned earlier. That's the maximum that they tax you up to. We definitely feel strongly that they're going to continue to raise that. That limit can go much higher. Okay. Also, if you think about it, right, you've got your required minimum distributions, you've got your full retirement age and your maximum age. We think 73, they're going to increase, they're going to continue to bump up the ages of when you're going to be able to take the money out. And also the retirement age of 66, 67 for young people like Luke out there, it's very reasonable for Congress to expect them to have a higher full retirement age. They can go as high as 70, right, to keep things moving. But just keep in mind, talk to your financial advisor how to plan in case Congress doesn't act. We feel comfortable that they will. All right, so that's, will it be there for me, right? That's kind of a quick scenario of what's happening in reality. The second question is, when can I file? I just want to make sure everybody in this room knows that you can file at the age of 62. If you file at 62, you'd get about 75% of what you would have gotten had you waited to your full retirement age, which again is going to be 66 or 67. And then if you wait until the age of 70, which is the maximum age, just please, no one in this room, you shouldn't wait older than 70 to file for Social Security. There's no benefit if you wait to 71, 72, or 73. If you haven't filed yet and you're 70, you're going to get about 132% of what your full retirement age benefit would be. And the reason is, between those 3 or 4 ages, 3 or 4 years, Congress, they're going to give you, the government gives you an 8% bump each year. All right, it's called a DRC, or a delayed retirement credit, right? And at a time where you're probably going to be very conservative in your investments, for them to guarantee 8% a year is a great thing, right? So it's something to consider. Now, we're kind of all very similar in the age group in this room. John's a lot older than I am. But everyone else is probably in the same group. Not that much older.
Not that much, but I look younger.
He does.
I just told him I was 25.
That hurts.
I just told him I was 25.
That's hurtful.
You brought it up.
I did. But, like, you probably all have friends and family who are suggesting to you, listen, I took it when I was 62, or I took it at my full retirement age. You should do what I do. Why they may have your best interest in heart, they don't know anything about your particular situation. So you have to think for yourself, are you still working full-time? What age are you? Are you below your full retirement age? Because I want to make sure everybody knows that if you're working, there's a low threshold of around $25,000 or so. For every $2 above that threshold, they're going to withhold $1 until your full retirement age. Something to consider. It's a strange thing for financial advisors to suggest this to you, but also talk to your doctor, right? What is your longevity? How is your health? My parents are both still alive at the age of 86. I had a grandfather that lived to 95. So from a financial perspective, I have to plan for longevity, right? What is your health like? Look at all of your individual situation. There's many factors that go into it to decide whether or not. From a general perspective, we're going to show you the pure math here. That's going to show you that if you don't need the money and you can afford to wait to file, from a purely mathematical perspective, it may be beneficial to wait as long as you can. All right, so we've got a typical couple that we run into a lot, Ron and Nancy. Ron is a little bit older than Nancy. He's 60. She's 58. In each of these 3 scenarios, right, everything is going to be equal except when they file. So Ron, as a 60-year-old, has a life expectancy of 85, and Nancy's is 90. I gave you some life expectancy earlier, but the good news is for everybody who's in this room who's still alive, and everybody in this room is still alive, right? If you're a woman, you can expect to live until your late 80s now. Men, mid-80s. One of you, chances are, is going to live into your 90s, okay? So you have to keep that in mind. If they both decide to start their benefits at the early age of 62, Ron gets $1,900 a month, Nancy gets $1,400. Collectively, when they die at 85 and 90, they have accumulated benefits of $1.65 million, okay? Same scenario, same age, same life expectancy. Difference here is they actually wait till their full retirement age to collect. You'll see Ron's monthly benefit goes up to $3,000. Nancy goes to $2,200. So even though it's on a compressed or a shorter period of time, because the monthly benefits are so much higher, collectively they're going to, the benefit's going to be about $1.9 million, or about $280,000 more. Now, door number 3, right? If they both wait until the age of 70, which again is the really maximum age that you should file, Ron's monthly benefit jumps up to about $3,800. Nancy's at $2,800. Collectively, they're at $2.1 million. So after I just said everybody's situation is unique, we just wanted to show you how the math would work out with all things being equal there. So I know we got a crowded room. We've got a lot more to talk about. Is there one or two questions on Social Security? We're going to be here during lunch and for about a half hour after lunch, so if you don't get your question in now, we're certainly going to be here, but if you have anything on Social Security before John moves ahead, please let us know. Yes?
If by some chance you don't need to use your social security because you have enough
Mhm.
cash and liquidity,
Right.
if you take it earlier, what if you invest it?
Well,
And get a
so
higher-
the question is, what are the chances of you really taking that money and reinvesting it? So you need to make sure that if that's your plan, that you actually do that, and then you're going to compare what your return is, how conservative or aggressive you're going to be in that. Because Social Security, before those full retirement age, they're going to give you a COLA or a cost of living adjustment each year. And then again, at your full retirement age, they're guaranteeing you 8% for 3 or 4 years. So it depends how you invest it. The first question is, are you going to invest all the money? Right? So it's something that you can analyze. It's hard to say without knowing all of the details of your particular situation, but the first question we ask is make sure that you're going to invest the money if that's your plan. Okay? Hope that answers your question.
No, it's,
Okay. John, how am I doing on time?
Good. Way over 5 minutes.
Oh, jeez. All right, I'm going to turn it over to John then, all right? And I'll be here if you have any other questions, okay? Thank you, folks.
And I think I sent you guys the article I was reading last night, right? They're talking about limiting the maximum benefit on high net worth earners. I think they're like the most they could, $100,000 Social Security limit between a husband and wife. Depending how much income you make, they could reduce that number. They said that would save 15 years of the fund going to no dollars. So that's something that, I never heard of that. That's actually a pretty smart thing. High net worth people don't really need the Social Security, right? So,
I think the issue we're facing right now is Congress doesn't seem to be able to
agree on anything.
on very much, so.
They're gonna have to do something. Now, the politicians are really good at kicking the can down the road, but this is coming pretty quickly.
They're still waiting on the TSA line.
I have to fly on Sunday, please. I'm dying about that. Okay. Income taxes. I love doing this part of it, right? I get excited about this because this is where we're really helping people. Our motto is educate and empower people so they can make a better decision with their hard-earned money. So we're going to talk about, I mentioned it before, I kind of teased it, that I probably did a disservice coming into your company and making you put money into a 401k, because are there any accountants in the room, CPAs, that do taxes for people? You do? People come to you for income taxes? Okay. What I say today, I'm not talking about you, but there's a reason why accountants say what they say, and it's our fault. And I'll get into that. So don't take anything personal, all right? How many people, well, 39 trillion dollars in debt our country is. Our country doesn't sell products at a profit to reduce their debt. How does our country collect revenue? How do they do it? Taxes. Taxes on us, right? So if our country's $39 trillion in debt, Ted just made a point that there's more people collecting Social Security than working. Where do you think tax rates are going? That was a great answer. Does anybody in this room think tax rates in the next, no, I'm not talking about the next 2 years or so. I'm talking about 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Because we're all living longer. Retirement isn't like my grandparents. They retired from work and died 3 years later. Retirement now is 20, 25, 30 years. Who thinks tax rates are going to go down in the next 25, 30 years? The accountant. Where do you think tax rates are going? Are you telling clients?
we'll go out.
Going up, right? Perfect. So with that, how many people in this room have a 401k, 403b, IRA, 457? Who put money, got a tax deduction for it, and is now sitting in a big pot of money? Who has those retirement accounts? Raise your hands, please. If there's nobody here, I won't talk about it. Everybody has one of them. We all put money in a 401k because why did we have to do that?
But I rolled it over.
But it's still in an IRA.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's still tax
It's
deferred.
rolled.
Yeah, tax deferred. Not in the company plan. Good, that's smart. What was I just asking? So, you have these tax deferred accounts. Who talks to their accountant, like the gentleman back there? How many people come to you in like August, September, and say, okay, Mr. Accountant, how can I make my taxes lower next year than they are now? Does anybody, who's doing tax planning strategies? Who meets with their advisor on a regular basis to try and figure out how to get their money out of a tax deferred account and pay the least amount of taxes? Who does that? You rolled it in, you're trying, right? A lot of people try, but we have to do it. And I'm gonna show you why today, okay? So we all think tax rates are gonna go up in the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years because there's less people working. Who remembers Ronald Reagan? He was the president, right? Who remembers what he did before he became president? He was an actor. He was a pretty good actor, right? So in 1939 or 40, I forget what year, I should probably do the research. He did a movie. I wish he was alive today, because I won't ask him anything about being a president. I want to ask him what it was like. He did a movie in 1939 and was paid $1 million. And you know what the highest federal income tax bracket was in 1939 or 40? 90%. He paid $900,000 federal income taxes on that $1 million movie he got paid for. And I honestly think if he was alive today and I asked him, was that the reason why you got into politics? Because he's on the record as saying he'll never do that ever again, never pay that kind of money in taxes. But that's what is going to happen to you if you don't do tax planning on these tax deferred accounts. And I'm going to go over some examples with you to prove what I'm talking about. So I came into your room. So we all think, I'm going to move around a little bit. That's why we have fun with this thing, right? So when I came into your room, in your office, and I said, hey, I got this new thing. So let's talk about first why we are in a 401k. What used to happen? We worked for a company, we got paid a pension, the company paid a pension, they paid into it, and you retired, you got a watch, and you got a pension payment for the rest of your life, right? Well, what happened to pensions? In the late 70s, they lobbied Congress, they didn't want the responsibility anymore, or the cost of putting pensions in. So they got lobbyists, paid a ton of money, and Congress advanced the 401k Act. That's what created the 401k in 1978. So now companies didn't have to put pensions in anymore. They stopped what they were doing. If you had one, it kept going, but they weren't contributing to it anymore. You had to do it yourself in a 401k. So now as an employee of a company, you had to become not only the employee, do your job, but you had to become a financial advisor. You had to pick mutual funds out of a big list of mutual funds. You had to do tax planning strategies in your job. And that's what we went into your room and told you about. So when I came into your room, I told you, hey, there's this new investment. The government just created it. It's called a 401k. Or if you're in education, it's a 403b. If you're in hospitals, 457, IRA, everything, they're all tax deferred. And I said to you, if you take some money out of your paycheck and put it into this account, you're gonna get a current year tax deduction. So for easy math, if you have a $100,000 salary and you put $5,000 into your 401k, you only paid income taxes on $95,000. That was the sale. You remember those meetings? And I told you you could max them out. Currently, right now in 2026, the most you can put in is $23,500. If you're over 50, you can put $33,000 into it. But what if I said to you in that same meeting, well, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to build this pot of money, and I could do a future value calculator, and your pot's probably going to be around $1 million 40 years from now, and tax rates might be 80%. You'd have to give $800,000 to the government. Who's doing that plan? Nobody. But we never told you that. We never told you that. So our country's $39 trillion in debt. And how much money do you think, if you added everybody's 401k, 403b, how much money do you think is sitting in these buckets of tax retirement accounts? And Congress knows. Take a guess. $40 trillion. So you people with $40 trillion in tax deferred accounts have a bullseye on your back, and Congress knows it. Because what's the first job of a politician? Get reelected. So if a politician goes out today and says, hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're $39 trillion in debt. We're going to increase your income taxes on your payroll and your pay. It's going to cost you another 10, 20% of your pay to pay down our debt. You voting for that politician? No. Absolutely not. But if that politician came out and said, hey, ladies and gentlemen, listen, we have a huge debt problem in our country, right? We're going to tax the rich. We're going to tax the people with the 401ks that have the $1 million pot of money. We're going to add another tax to that. You think the working class people in the United States, who most of, I think the statistics show, only 20, 30% of the people in the United States have a 401k. Do you think they would vote for that plan, that politician? Absolutely. That guy's or gal's getting reelected. So you guys have a target on your back. Now, we try to do stuff at DPS Advisors that's common sense, because I'm not really that smart. I know I may look it, but I'm not really that smart. Common sense stuff. I have a pot of money that's tax deferred. When do I want to take money out of that pot? When tax rates are low or when tax rates are high? When do you want to take money out of that tax deferred pot?
Low.
Low. When is that?
Never.
No, it can't be never. It's right now. Right now. The accountant just verified it. He said it. The accountants we work with, the estate planning attorneys, everyone's telling us the tax rates, not later on in life for you guys, but when you pass on down to your kids, you're going to get hammered in these tax deferred accounts. And I'm going to give you an example. So the time to do this is now, not put your head in the sand and hopefully it'll work out and not care about it. Because if you have any amount of money in this 401k, the IRS didn't give you a dime to put into it. They didn't work 1 minute to put money in that 401k for you, but they're going to take right now probably around 30% of the pot. And then when the kids get it, they're going to take 40 to 50% of the pot. That's at today's tax rate. If tax rates are going up 20 years from now, you might lose half to 70% of your account can go to the IRS. Is that the plan you want to have? If you do nothing, that's the plan you got. And we're going to go over some numbers. So, I say this all the time. Luke doesn't know about this game, but remember the show, Let's Make a Deal? Everybody in this room, because we're all older, we remember that show, right? It was door number 1, door number 2, you had to guess the prices, right? Let's make a deal. Okay, so we can do the same exact thing with your tax deferred accounts. Door number 1 is you do nothing. Because listen, this isn't my first rodeo. You're not my first group of people over 50 years old that I've talked to. What do you guys hate to do? Bless you.
Nothing.
Change. I could show you the best option or opportunity. You hate change. I know that. But if you don't change, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to pay through the nose in taxes. I'm going to go over that. So that's door number 1. So you listen to me, I show you about all these taxes, and you do nothing. And I'll give you what that number is. That's door number 1. Door number 2, we're going to do a little tax planning, and we're going to see what that costs you. And then door number 3, some extreme tax planning stuff, and see what that door comes out. And then you decide which door you want to pay. Is that a great game? We're going to play Let's Make a Deal right now, okay? So let's say we have a person who has $500,000 sitting in an IRA. They rolled it over out of their 401k because they're not working there anymore. One other piece of advice. If you leave a company or a school or anything, get your money out of the plan. Roll it into your own IRA. Don't leave it in an old company. I met with a person 2 weeks ago who had 6 old 401ks, didn't even remember what they were invested in. When you leave a company, take your money with you. Roll it into an IRA. It's not taxable. It goes over. You don't pay a dime in a rollover. So another piece of advice, roll your money out. So, is it far-fetched to say, because this is the saving generation, right? My grandparents, my parents, us, we saved. If we didn't have any money, we didn't buy it. If we couldn't pay cash, didn't buy it. We saved money. We're the generation that built this country, and we're the generation that saved everything. The young kids today, they all got credit cards. They don't save anything. I'm not him, but they don't save anything, the young kids today, right? So we saved everything. So imagine you saving all this money. We have 500 grand in an IRA. Is that far-fetched? You guys, your balances, you know what your balances are. Am I far off? You save for 30 years in a 401k, get a match for most of it. You have to, if you got any return on that pot of money over those years, you have to have somewhere around that number, right? So I'm not crazy. I'm not talking about a $10 million IRA, 500,000 at 65 years old. This person has 8 years left before what happens at 73? Required minimum distributions. Now you remember when we were working, it was 70, remember the two ages you had to know? 59 and a half was the earliest you can pull the money out, and 70 and a half was when you had to start doing RMDs. But what happened? We're living longer. So 2 years ago, they raised it to 72. Went from 70 and a half to 72. Last year, in the Secure Act 2.0, they moved it to 73 and put a codicil to that law that in 2035, it's going to 75. And why are they doing that? Because we're living longer. They want the pot to grow more so they can tax it. Okay, so now you do nothing with this $500,000 IRA. Am I saying something that anybody, do you guys understand? Right, this is pretty simple. 500 future value calculator at a 7% return. If your advisor's not getting you a 7% return, you need to fire the advisor, okay? Because money markets are paying 4. All right, so 7% return every year at 73 years old, that IRA is now worth $860,000. And now the game begins. The IRS comes knocking. Hello? You have to take out $37,000 out of that IRA, whether you need it or want it. You have to. It's called the required minimum distribution. And that's year 1. Year 2, $39,000. Year 3, $41,000. Year 4, $45,000. Year 5, almost 50 grand. And it goes on and on and on and on. And let's say we live to 90 years old, like Ted said before, we're living longer. We live to 90. You would have taken out $1.1 million of distributions, and I'm not even going to change the tax rate. So now at 90, that's 17 years from now, right? So I'm not even going to change, I'm going to use today's tax bracket on this pot. 1.1 million of distributions. You guys understand what I just said? You add up all those 37, 39, 41, 1.1 million. You pay 24% in taxes on that pot. That tax bill is $265. So you yourself, on your distributions, pay $265,000. Did I say anything that nobody understands? You understand that? Okay, game's not over. Because when you die at 90 and your account was earning 7% every year, there's still $1 million left in that IRA. It's not free. Let's say Luke's your kid. You want to go, it goes to your kid as the beneficiary. Luke inherits that IRA. He has to open up a beneficiary IRA. He can't add it to his own IRA. It's got to be separate. Why is that? Because the rules of beneficiary IRAs are different than regular IRAs. Luke now has to take it. So 17 years from now, Luke inherits my $1 million IRA. He's now 43 years old. In his prime working years, making the most money he's probably going to make in his life, right? And now when he gets $1 million IRA, he has to take it out in 10 years. So $100,000 a year has to come out of that IRA, beneficiary IRA. He's forced to by IRS. So add 100 grand to his taxable income. Let's say he's making a couple hundred grand. Didn't that just bump him in, let's just say a 30% tax bracket? We're using today's tax rates. I'm not saying tax rates have changed, but 17 years from now, they're going to be way higher than they are now. But at today's tax rate, Luke's going to pay $310,000 in income taxes. So between you and your distributions of $265, your inherited beneficiaries are paying $310. The IRS collected $575,000 in income taxes on your IRA that when you were 65 years old was only worth 500 grand. Did I say something that nobody understands? Do you understand what that I just said? Okay, that's door number 1. So you sat here, you heard me talk about RMDs, you heard me talk about taxes on the RMDs, and you do nothing. Because again, you guys are afraid of change, okay? But what if I could show you door number 2, we can get the same amount of distributions. $1 million to you, $1 million go to your kids, but we cut the tax bill to $150,000. That's door number 2. What if I could show you that? Then, if we use some tools that not a lot of people like in here, in the annuity world, I'm not selling annuities, but there's a third door we could do. I could cut that tax bill to $85,000. So this is the game. Let's make a deal. You guys do nothing. You're gonna pay $575. IRS loves you. They're gonna raise taxes, you're probably gonna pay more. Door number 2, we're gonna cut the tax bill to $150, or we're gonna cut it to $85. You have a choice. And listen, you come into our office, I'm gonna explain, I'm gonna run your numbers on this thing. We think this is so important. We built a website, dpstaxbill.com. You can go to that website, plug your numbers in, plug your interest rate, plug your tax rate, and see, and a click of a button, it'll tell you how much you're gonna pay the IRS at today's tax rates. And you could add it, then go, for fun, go add the tax rate, make them higher, and see how much you're gonna get then. That's door number 1. So you sat here, and most of you are gonna say, wow, that's crazy, and go home, and it's a beautiful spring day, you're gonna forget everything I just said, right? And you're not gonna remember. And you're not gonna do anything, because that's what this group does. They don't change. So we have people that take us up on our offer, and I promise you, it's stress-free. Our motto is educate and empower you so you can make a better decision with your hard-earned money. So I'm gonna explain to you what all your options are, and you have a choice. Now, every one of you in this room said, I have a tax-deferred account. Every one of you in this room said, I know tax rates are going up. So everybody in this room should be taking that sheet of paper and saying, John, I want you to educate me on how I can save taxes on my retirement plan. Because if you don't do anything, ladies and gentlemen, you're gonna pay the most amount of tax you can pay. I'm gonna give you a quick example of what we did December of last year. We had a gentleman, a retired doctor, sitting in that seat right there with that lovely woman sitting right there. We had a doctor, retired, sat right there with a $5 million IRA. 2026, he was turning 73 years old. He didn't. Did I just do that? He didn't need the money or want the money. Chris? There we go. He didn't need the money or want the money. He wanted to go to his 2 daughters. So this is 2025. He was turning 73 in 2026. His RMDs start kicking in. His first year's RMD was $265,000. We showed him, we ran his numbers on our chart, and we showed him that between him, his distributions, and then passing it on down to his daughters at 90, and they have to take it out over a 10-year period, they would have been distributed about almost $30 million. But they would have paid $18 million in income taxes. So we had a doctor on December 15th of 2025 come into our office. I had Schwab on the line, who was the custodian, his CPA in my conference room, and we did a tax plan that created a $2.2 million tax bill for that doctor in 2025. And he'll never pay another dime. And now his daughters are gonna receive $25 million, 100% tax-free. We cut his tax bill from $18 million to 2.2. That was door number 3 he chose. Now, those are crazy large numbers, and don't listen. Paying 2.2 million is nuts. But if you're gonna pay, so would you rather pay 18 million over a 30-year period, or pay 2.2 now and never pay a dime in taxes, never worry about if Congress can't get their crap together and they just don't do anything and tax rates go through the roof? He's never gonna be affected by it. It was such a big deal. I had Schwab on the line, I had a CPA in front of me, and him. I made him sign a waiver that he understood what we were doing. He understood he was creating a $2.2 million tax bill in 2025. And then when the Schwab person got it all set up, you had to click submit. We recorded it. I said, Doc, come here, come sit next to me. I go, I'm not pressing the submit button. You're submitting it. And we got it, and he did. Boom, hit the button, boom. Tax plan, paid $2.2 million in taxes. Now his money's tax-free.
And Irma too.
Oh, yeah. So, good point. Medicare, we have to pay it, right? 65 years old, we got to pay Medicare, right? And you pay premiums, right? And what are the premiums based on? How do they determine how much you pay in premium? Your income. Now, if he didn't do any planning, starting next year, his IRMA is going to go to he's going to be affected by IRMA, and he's going to go from $200. He's single, he's widowed. His premium it was $200 and something at 60 last year in 2025. With the RND, his premiums goes to $700 a month for the rest of his life. By doing this tax planning in 2025, we will affect him for 1 year. So for 1 year, he's going to pay $700 a month because he got a huge tax bill in 1 year. That's income. But for the rest of his life after 2026, he's back to $200 a month in Medicare premiums. Reciprocal benefits of doing tax planning strategies. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say it one more time. We're running late. Luke, they agree. Are you guys okay with going 10 minutes or more over so we can talk about market volatility? If you tell me no, I'll tell them to bring lunch out and we'll wrap it up. Are we good?
Go ahead.
Go 10 more minutes? Are you guys feeling of, is this one of the better events you've been to? We educate, we're not selling anything? Okay, so thank you. What he did was, we educated him, he sat in that chair right there, I swear to God, he sat right there. He came into our office, we ran his numbers, we showed him door number 1, 2, and 3, and my job is educate, empower you, so you can make a better decision with your hard-earned money. If he chose door number 1, okay, I'm not pressuring you to do anything. You know, I'm doing this way too long. You want to take my information and leave my office, you're going to get no stress, no force to do anything. We're not going to sell you an annuity. You could take my information and walk out that door. Hey, good luck. We're here if you need us. I've signed a 7-year lease. I'm not going anywhere. Come back anytime if you need any help. We don't pressure anybody into anything. My father taught me that a long time ago. Okay? You come in, we educate you, and then just talk. And then you decide what you want to do. Okay? That's tax planning. If you don't do anything, you are going to get run over by the IRS. Okay? And I love our country. I love this country to death. Okay? The tax code is made for a reason, right, sir? It's made so that we pay the least amount of taxes. I'm not doing anything illegal. I am following the tax code. And it's there to help us pay the least amount. But if you don't take advantage of the opportunities and keep your head in the sand, you're going to get run over by the IRS because you have a target on your back. Okay? 2 minutes on inflation, and Luke's going to come up and wrap up with market volatility. Then we'll talk to you about how you can come into our office. Okay? So really quick, inflation is like a tax. Okay? Who really thinks the inflation rate's 2.9%? I mean, these politicians lie through their teeth, and like we believe it. It's like crazy. A steak in this restaurant 6 months ago was $5 cheaper than it is today. Inflation's not 2.9%. I think it's double digits. Does everybody agree with me on that? Yes. Gas, right? Well, gas is a little different issue because of what's going on right now. It's going to come back down once this thing gets settled. So forget gas, but everything else is crazy expensive, right? When you're retired and living on whether it's Social Security or a pension, or your assets, you are living on fixed income, right? You're not going to work to make more money. How many 75-year-old people are going into IBM and saying, hey, I'm here for a job? Who's getting a job at 75? Nobody. We're in the 20 college kids can't get jobs, right? We're in a fixed income society, this group of people, right? Inflation at a 6% rate. And again, I'm going to use solid numbers because I'm not that smart. $4,000 a month on expenses. If at a 6% inflation rate, your expenses will double every 8 years. So if you're 65 and you're living 25 years in retirement, your expenses are going to double 3 times. So your $4,000 a month at 65, 8 years later is $8,000 a month. You didn't buy more stuff, you bought the same stuff. 8 years after that, it goes to $16,000 a month. 8 years after that, when you're 90, it's $32,000 a month for the same stuff you use. Not for more stuff, the same. So if you're not building an increasing income plan, so if your plan is just, I'm going to take 4% off my portfolio and my Social Security payment, and I'm going to be set for life, you are so missing the boat. That is so not true. And Luke's going to talk a little bit more about that. So if you don't have an increasing income plan in retirement, it's not a matter of if you're going to run out of money, it's a matter of when you're going to run out of money. And we do increasing income plans every day. at DPS Advisors, okay? So Luke's, I'm gonna skip, that's my talk on inflation. Luke's gonna hit market volatility, and then we'll ask some questions. I'll tell you how to take us up on our offer, and then we'll have lunch. Are we okay with that? We're only like 5 minutes over right now. We good? Yeah.
Yeah, I like to call this segment the market volatility 2-minute drill because John and Ted like to leave me 2 minutes to talk about it with you guys. But yeah, I'm gonna be
Oh,
talking.
we got 10. We got a lot of time. We got time.
Going to be talking about market volatility and investing as you're approaching retirement or may already be in retirement. Because investing in retirement
No worries.
is totally different than investing while you're working. When you're working and receiving an income, you can afford to be aggressive with your investments, and you should be. When you're getting closer to retirement and you're about 5 to 10 years out, that's when you want to start shifting to a more conservative portfolio. Once you're in retirement, you really need to worry about market volatility because you can't afford to take a loss in the market and having to take money out of your IRA in the RMD. Because once you're 73 and RMDs are due and you haven't done any Roth conversions, that RMD doesn't care if the stock market's down and you still have to take money out by December 31st. So I'm going to show you guys a few examples of how a loss could affect you. If you lose 10% in your portfolio, it's going to take 3.6 years at a 3% return to get back to even. At a 6% return, it's going to take almost 2 years. In 2022, both stocks and bonds were down. Have you guys ever heard of the 60-40 balanced portfolio, 60% stocks and 40% bonds? Maybe you've heard of it in a business class or if you're in the industry. That portfolio was down 25% in 2022 because the concept that stocks and bonds have an inverse relationship is a lie, right? Bonds are affected by interest rates. And in 2022, the Federal Reserve started raising rates and bond values went down. And that 60-40 balanced portfolio got crushed. So if you lose 20% and now you're a conservative investor because you're in retirement, it's going to take you 7.5 years at a 3% return to get back to even. With the RMD being taken out on top of that, it's going to be impossible to do. There's another example on this next slide. So let's say you have $100,000 in your portfolio and you lose 10%, that's going to leave you with $90,000. You need an 11.1% return to get back to $100,000. You may think that because you lost 10%, that a 10% return would get you back to $100,000, but unfortunately not how it works, right? Because you're now working with less principal, right? You're not working with $90,000. If you lose 25%, that leaves you with $75,000, and you'd need a 33.3% return to get back to $100,000. That means you'd have to take a crazy amount of risk to get that kind of return. And I would think, if we're in retirement or we're approaching retirement, we're starting to want to relax more in our lives, right? And enjoy our retirement. We don't want to be riding this roller coaster where you need a 33.3% return because you're going to have to take a crazy amount of risk to get that number. So you just need to really watch out for market volatility in retirement and pay attention to how your strategy is set up. Maybe if you've been in the same 401k for your whole working life, so you just need to go in, check on your plan and see how you're invested. Just one more graph here, one more chart. This chart is called the Lost Decade. It's showing $1 million IRA from 2000 to 2009 with 4% distributions taken out. So that's that RMD rule and sustaining market loss throughout the period. At the end of this period, this person's left with $480,000. And that's just in a 10-year period. And that's why market volatility in retirement is so important to the people in this room. Because when you have to take an RMD in a down market, it's going to affect your principal balance a lot more. Right? So let's say you have $1 million in your IRA on December 31st in 2022. You're 73 years old. You're retired and you're in a balanced portfolio. So what do we know? We know that your portfolio went down 25%, right? Because we were in that 60-40 balanced portfolio in 2022. So it goes from $1 million to $750. And the IRS says you still have to take another $40,000 out because of that RMD rule. So now you went from 750 to 710, right? From $1 million. So now in year one of retirement, your IRA went from $1 million to 710,000. And that was just in 1 year. So what happens when you live 25 to 30 years in retirement? Because people are living longer nowadays. They're not shorter, right? People are healthier overall, starting to live. You're seeing more and more people live into their hundreds, right? So you need to be prepared, and your investment philosophy in retirement needs to be completely different than your philosophy while you were working. But when we talk about risky and conservative investments, what do we mean? We show this chart and have this conversation with everyone that walks into our office, whether you're new, whether you're a client coming in for their first planning meeting. We call it the 3 investment worlds or the 3 investment buckets. As you can see, you have the 3 buckets here. On the left, you have the safety and guarantee bucket. In the middle, you have hybrid. Right, you have the risk and potential growth. You have 3 different buckets. And I'll get into what they mean right now in a little bit of detail. So on the left, you have the safety and guarantee bucket, right? These are investments where your principal is guaranteed, your interest is guaranteed, and your term is guaranteed. These are investments like your CDs, your government bonds, fixed annuities. In the middle, the hybrid bucket, you have these investments have principal protection, but there's potential for more growth when it's linked to an external market index. These are your equity-linked CDs and your fixed indexed annuities. And then on the right, your risk and potential growth bucket. This is where nothing's guaranteed. There's no guarantee of principal, term, interest rate, but these are investments like your stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, REITs, real estate investment trusts, variable annuities. This is where you're going to have the highest potential for growth. So if you are someone who has a portfolio and you have a bunch of different stocks, bonds, different mutual funds, and you think you're diversified or you're mitigating risk, you're really not, because it falls under this bucket, right? A truly diversified portfolio has money spread out across all 3 of the buckets. Some money here, some money here, some money here. And when you take advantage of your stress-free, no obligation appointment with us, we'll sit down with you and we'll go over this in a lot more detail. Any questions on market volatility and investing in retirement? Thank you.
Good job. Good job. So if you were watching the TV show before, we actually posted this video on our TV show, and actually we explained the different buckets, right? So what happens if you guys decide to take us up on our offer and come into our office, you're going to say, hey, what do I need to bring? Bring your plan. And bring whatever you want. You don't want to bring nothing, just want to meet us, that's fine. You want to speed up the process a little bit, bring whatever you got, right? You come in and you have that big box firm statement and you say, here, this is what I have. I'm like, okay, well, what's your plan? Well, no, I got stocks, bonds, I got mutual funds. I go, okay, so you have an investment account. That's what that is. That's not a plan. That means all your money is at risk. My job, like I'm selling you a hammer, my job is to explain to you the pros and cons of every investment tool that's at your disposal to try and figure out whatever job we're trying to accomplish. You come into our office, you might say, hey, I have a pension, I have Social Security, I don't need income from my portfolio. I want to make it grow within a reasonable risk. I want to pass it on down to my kids. Okay, great. Let's talk about how you're invested right now. And we'll see. We'll be able to analyze what you have. I have Morningstar reports, Quanti, Riskalyze. You pay nothing for all this analysis. We do it all. Don't pay a dime. We'll show you the results when they come back. Takes us about a week to 10 days. We'll show you the results. Here's how much risk you're actually taking in your portfolio, right? And we'll see if there's inefficiencies. As a licensed fiduciary, if there aren't any inefficiencies, I'm telling you, you're doing a great job. If that's your growth portfolio and that's what you want to do, that's perfect. You're in a great spot. And that's all you do. And if we show you inefficiencies and we show you how we can improve on those inefficiencies, I'm going to say to you at that point, you have a decision to make. You can either come work with us, we explain to you what our fees are, our fee structure, you work with us, or you're more than welcome to go back to your advisor and tell him to fix the problems that he created. I mean, that's typically doesn't happen, but you're more than entitled to. I'm not going to say a word, but go ahead. Go ahead. I'm not pressuring anybody. I'm doing this way too long. It's not my first rodeo. I would love to take on everybody in this room as a client, but I'll educate you and empower you, and you guys decide what's best for you. We like to have a lot of fun in our office. We like to, we laugh, we joke, make fun of each other. We'll make fun of you. We have a lot of fun with our clients. So, I had a client tell me yesterday, she's like, I love coming to this office. So we just have a lot of fun. You don't have to be crazy. But this reinvestment world opens people's eyes, because having a big box firm statement is not a plan. Okay? I'm going to ask you, what's your plan for legacy? What's your plan for healthcare? Because AARP did a study. The average couple, 65 years old, can expect to pay $315,000 in healthcare costs in retirement. What's your plan for that? You got $1 million IRA that your advisor, broker, is building a growth portfolio for you. That's great. What's your tax plan? Well, I don't have a tax plan. I'm going to wait till 73 and start taking the money out. Okay, well, I showed you what that door was. Are you going to go back to that advisor to let them fix that? If they could fix it, they would have. Okay, we'll talk about that. Income. I talked about having we're on fixed income. How do we create an increasing income plan in retirement? It's really easy, okay? You take your big box firm statement with all the money in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and we divide it up amongst the three investment worlds. So the market, I'm not saying take all your money out of the market, so please don't think I'm telling you guys that. We manage about $350 million of client assets. What we're saying is, use this investment bucket for its purpose. I have that bucket set up for my clients. We're not touching it for 10 years. I'm using safe buckets for the first 10 years of income. So letting my growth bucket grow, so when the market goes down like it's doing a little bit now, I'm not panicking. I'm not touching that bucket for 10 years. So we bucket your assets out, and I'm going to take income from my safe money for the first 5 years. Then I might have some hybrid money from years 7 through 15. Then I'm going to have my two Wall Street buckets. Then I'm going to switch one of the Wall Street buckets to income 15 years from now. And then I have my fourth Wall Street, the fourth bucket, the Wall Street one, for growth 20 years from now. I could be really aggressive in that portfolio because I'm not touching it. If you're not doing those kind of strategies, you won't have increasing income in retirement. And that's all we do. We show you how to do it. And you can either go back to your advisor, but I'm going to ask you, why would you go back to your advisor? If they could have shown you this, shouldn't they have? If you're going to be like bucket number one in the tax planning strategy, and it's going to cost you $575,000 in taxes between you and your kids, and you're going to go back to the current advisor who has that $500 IRA, shouldn't they have shown you how to do that? Why would you go back to that person? Because they obviously don't know how to do it. So no knock on them, they're growth advisors. That's all they are. I got friends at all these big box firms. We talk to them. I'm like, why don't you talk to people about tax planning strategies? And the answer is, they're not allowed. Compliance reasons, they are growth advisors, and that's all they can do. So that's it. I'm not knocking them, but I'm certainly not going to them for tax planning strategies, because they can't do it. So we'll talk to you about that. That's what you're gonna get when you decide, if you decide to come work with us. So, we're done. What I need you to do, let's talk about this sheet real quick before I start bringing in the appetizers, okay? So this sheet, if you guys want to take this up, and I promise you, Luke, keep that door shut for 1 second. I promise you, this is a stress-free environment. You come into my office, you don't have to bring anything to this first meeting. If you want to speed up the process, you can bring your stuff. But if you don't want to, you want to just come see us there, so you see, like, do they really have an office? You can do that. Set up an appointment. I promise you, it's stress-free. I'm not bothering anybody with forcing anybody to do anything. Let's come and find out why you really came today. Is it tax planning? Is it income planning? Is it legacy planning? How do I want to get my assets to my next generation without getting hammered in taxes? We'll talk about all that stuff. And we'll look for inefficiencies in your current plan. Because once we talk about what you're trying to accomplish, I'm going to ask you, what do you have set up for that? And when you bring me that big statement, I'm going to say, that's not really set up for what you want to do, but let's see what it does. Let's do the analysis. And then we go from there. No stress. So last thing, if you want to take us up on it, the other game I hate to play is telephone tag. So I am going to ask you for a favor. If you do want to take us up on our offer, Ted and Luke are going to be outside. They have our laptops. They have our calendar. Even if you don't have your calendar, Go pick a date 2-3 weeks from now. If you go home and it's, oh crap, we have something going on that day, just call our office and reschedule. But you get a date on the calendar. We don't have to play telephone tag. We will call you a couple days before to confirm it if you keep the date, but get a date on the calendar today before you leave. So while lunch is gonna get being served, run out, take 2 seconds, see them. They have our calendar. We'll give you an appointment card. And then if you have to go home, when you go home, if you have to change it, just call the office. Susie's there, she'll take care of it and change it to whatever's best for you. There are some people that are still working, and if you need to have meetings later on after work, we will do that. There are some people in extreme circumstances, on a weekend, I try not to work on Saturdays, but if you say you can only meet on a Saturday, one of us will be available to meet with you on a Saturday. So we try to make it as accommodating as possible. Take our information, educate and empower you, and you decide what you want to do. That's what we do. That's our story. All right, you ready for lunch? I'm tired, I'm sweating. How did it got so hot? It got warm, right? I'm sweating. So thank you guys very much. We're here for questions. If anybody have any questions about anything, let me know. And I'm going to talk while they're serving lunch, so give me feedback. If you want to make an appointment, go see Ted and Luke. Wait a minute, you need GPS to get to Roseland? I'm teasing. It's right off of 280 and Eisenhower Parkway. You know where Livingston is? Where are you from? You're father of 10, right?